welcome to the sixth class of the second series, the Chakay. And today we're going to be dealing with one's cosmic being and the connection with the celestial beings and deepening our journey into the confidence and the presence that we can have of being our true essence, of sitting in this realm of density and emanating out into our fullness and receiving that confirmation, that guidance, that connection is to help us traverse the darkness that we're going through at the moment, understanding that this era is necessary in the same way that the squeezing of the birth canal causes the black pearl in the throat of the baby that prevents ingestion of water into the lungs to be swallowed and activate the meridian system. And in the same way, as we get squeezed through this eye of the needle and through this birth, we are it's like being pumped or shocked into our awareness. And so it's important to understand that that awareness is something that is not new, it's very old. And it's something that we are remembering. And these codices are sacred ways of living and life forms that help us to re-embody what we lost and understand and support us as we continue through this ascension process. So I'm going to turn over to Tupac for a blessing, and we'll jump right in. So Tupac.
Bien, Chakay. Entonces, acomodamos nuestro cuerpo y posición en bien, ¿sí? Vamos a invocar.
So we'd like you to come into a nice vertical position and calmness in your body as we come into this prayer.
Ancha, kamakentaita, que wachwait komia kamiki, porque son kuiwan, porque voluntad komia kamiki taitayay, tan que mañana kay kabirimay. Taitayay imay kuchek nun tapos pampachariwaya, kalpachariwaya, aisariwaya, pusariwaya nyawapahman. Kay pachapi, kausay pachapi, kenyakari pachapi, keongkui pachapi. Amaya satuan kicho me apuntan kicho taitayay. Pampachari may kuchek nun tapos sinak taitayay. Ichaichiway, kalpachariway, nyawapanay pah, nyawapahman, kulinay pah, anchaywan. Lieni su ati pai tapacheri tu kuya chachini kunapa kay kunapa hamdia kunapa kay ayupa naita tatanay chet apuya su hari kami kita tatanay ni causa ni kinan tu hari kuni causa iya kunap sa kunap taita kunukan kunap sa naparawaitsiyan amaya china kan kichis yan palpacheri wait hampi wait up some beaches si trampiches mata que si trampiches la palate que to hari kami kita italia akhana kon takucho chek chanin chuya anje hamucho que wasi que kuna jamarisa prima y menon purichai anje monta italia jamarisa yana paluan emiluan que me gano posate we can some just que ay munne we can respire, después de la invocación puede respirar profundo, como el viento, fluido, libre, en tranquilidad.
So breathe very deeply in freedom and tranquility as the air fills your body. Begin to open your eyes and open your heart and sit like a flower in the sunlight, receiving the transmission. So a lot of people at this time are suffering from a sense of isolation, a sense of confusion, a sense of struggle. And what is happening in this bifurcation of reality is that the old operating system is non-functional. And so a lot of people are hanging on to that method. And those of you who are aware of this and have been making moves in your life to clarify, to simplify, to resurrect yourself, may be feeling a lack of guidance or a lack of inspiration. And one of the things to come to understand is that the mind has been trained, and we have all been trained, to get busy and to keep occupied. And in order to go back to the ancient way of being that these codices represent and speak to and from, we have to go through a time of surrender and letting go, which also induces confusion, sadness, fear, and a sense of non-worth at times, and feeling like an outsider. And if you're feeling any of these things, what I can say is you're right in alignment, because you are recognizing that you're not occupying yourself with an old operating system based on duality and separation and opposition. And every time you find yourself operating there, you get stung, you hurt, you get tired, you get frustrated, your financial life is in ruins, you have no inspiration, you get sick. And so understand that that is all appropriate to the times we find ourselves in. In fact, the Andean prophecies speak to this time and say, at this time, there will be a great appearance of what appears to be a mental disorder, psychosis in the world. And you will sit and you will observe and cry at times because the lack of interface is such. So this is where trust comes in. This is where confidence comes in. This is where being a part of an Ayu, spiritual family, comes in. And it also is where the codices come in. And that is why at this time we have been directed to facilitate these courses, to give you some base foundational wiring to help you engage what you lost a very long time ago. So with that, we'll turn to the transmission that Tupac's going to bring through, and I'll do my part of bringing it through as well and putting it into Western terms. So, listo, Wakiche?
Bien, hermano. Primeramente, decirle gracias, hermano Jeffrey, Chewa Manchef, y saludar a nuestro ay, hermanos.
So he sends his deep love in presence to all of you, and thank you for your presence here.
Nuevamente, bienvenidos a este estudio de nuestros ancestros incas.
And welcome to the class where we study the ways of the ancient Incas.
Esta tarde vamos a aprender sobre el código Puri.
Yeah, so it's changing up. For today, we're going to study the Código Puri. Yo pienso this is a Chakay hoy día. ¿Tu preferencia es Puri?
Sí, también cualquier hermano. Es muy bien.
¿Cómo te gusta?
Ya, vamos. Entonces vamos a estudiar sobre Chakay.
Chakay, yeah.
¿Sí?
Sí, sí.
Adelante, hermano. Puede decirlos.
Está bien. ¿Cómo te gustó?
Entonces, Chakay es un código sagrado, ¿no? Desde nuestros abuelos incas.
So this is a sacred Código Chakay that comes from our grandmothers and grandfathers, the Inca.
Este código nos va, bueno, nos va a abrir algunas partes de la conciencia, algunos portales de los cosmos.
So this opens up the gates or the portals to the cosmos. It is a means to interact with the higher frequencies and consciousness that is our birthright.
Tanto dentro de su Mancoswasi, dentro de su cuerpo cósmico, y tanto en los cosmos.
So it enters into your physical body and your cosmic body as well as the cosmos.
Sí. Todo cuerpo cósmico tiene un camino, un portal.
So all of your bodies represent a filament or a pathway or a portal.
Todo cuerpo es sagrado en su dimensión, en su espacio.
So all of the bodies are divine in their dimensions and in this space.
Todo cuerpo en su espacio, momentos puede estar abierto, momentos cerrado.
But in our bodies, at times our bodies are channels. This pathway is open, and other times it is closed.
Y todo espacio tiene un camino o como un puente de conexión. A eso decimos chakra.
So it's these bodies. It acts like a bridge that traverses between the dimensions and the realms.
Hay un chakra, ¿no? De un cuerpo a otro cuerpo para que viaje la energía.
So it's like a runner, the movement between, almost like a fiber optic system or a network between one point of your body and the other part. So it's like a physical body to the cosmic body.
Un puente, no un puente como estamos imaginando, ¿no? Como un puente del río, pero también esa forma, ¿no? Eso nos hace entender que hay diferentes formas de puentes.
So this bridge is not like a physical bridge, and at the same time it is a physical bridge. It's like a river. It's like something that is directly connecting us with energetic flow, with consciousness.
Estos caminos, canales, conocidos como puentes, forman parte de la chacana. Por eso decimos chaca.
So all of this, all these points form the Andean cross, the chakana or the chakan, stages of consciousness.
Chaka es un camino básico, fundamental para conectar.
So it is the basic structure through which we connect.
Es posible ese camino, ese puente necesite construir o restaurar.
So it is necessary to construct this or even restore this bridge from one land to another land, from one stage of consciousness to your higher consciousness or to the cosmic beings.
O es posible que ese puente esté muy viejo, ¿no? Esté deteriorado o esté por caerse.
Right, so this is a very old connection that may be disintegrated in a state of disrepair from a lack of use. It is like opening up an aspect of your attic or your basement of your being and realizing that the fabric of this reality, due to neglect or non-use, has become frayed.
Es posible ese puente esté neutralizado o bloqueado o con diferente dirección.
It also can be blocked and dysfunctioning in different directions or different aspects.
¿Sí? Eh, esto puede, esto puede estar pasando o ocasionándose dentro de tu manco swasi, dentro de tu cuerpo cósmico o fuera de tu cuerpo cósmico.
So we need to understand, we need to open this and restore this connection between your cosmic being and your Mankoswasi, which is your physical being, and conversely between your physical being and your cosmic being.
¿Sí? Porque dentro de tu cuerpo cósmico todo es un camino, un puente de conexión.
So everything in your it is your point of connection. It is your cosmic path. It is a silver thread, you might say, that you hear of between your consciousness and your physical body when you astral travel.
En ese símbolo o en ese código de Chakana, ¿no? En esa forma está conectado su organismo físicamente y energéticamente ahí dentro.
So in this form, we see the form of the Chakana, the Andean cross, and the stages of consciousness with the portal in the middle. And this forms the structure of the physical body and the cosmic body and all the connections in between.
Tanto en el espacio de Yachay, físicamente, energéticamente, en el espacio del cerebro, ¿no? Y tanto en el espacio de tu muna y yanka, en todos los centros. Hay un tejido en esa forma de chakra.
So chakra is representing not just the yachai or the balance or the harmonic, the wisdom that's based out of experiential and intuitive intelligence. It's also about the munai, the love and the unconditional heart. It's about the yonkai, the creative fertility and the will, and also the life force. It is all aspects, and that is all represented within the Chakana.
La manifestación de Chakay es evidente, ¿no? En nuestro cuerpo. Por ejemplo, la nariz. Hay la nariz tiene dos hoyos, tienes dos ojos, tienes dos hemisferios. Estos están conectados en esa forma de Chakra.
Mm-hmm. And we can see this in ourselves by the two aspects, like the two holes in our nose, the two ear openings, the two eyes, things like that. This is the two aspects that are in a harmonic and help us breathe together. But in disconnection, for example, we're only breathing out of one side, the physical nose, and we forget there's a nose. So everything is in balance within ourselves.
Tus oídos, tus orejas que escuchan,
Mm-hmm.
¿sí? Tus pulmones,
Mm-hmm.
tu corazón tiene lado femenino, masculino.
Mm-hmm. So we have 2 ears to hear from, both the spiritual hearing and the physical hearing. We have 2 wings that cause us to fly and balance. And we also have 2 sides of our heart, the masculine and the feminine.
Sí. Adentro está bien organizado en ese sentido, nuestra energía, nuestro cuerpo biológico, nuestra conciencia.
So we have to organize ourselves well, not just in our physical body and our biology, but in our consciousness and bring those into balance.
Pero en esa forma de código de Chakra.
And then this creates the form of Chakay.
¿Sí? Que es parte de Chakana. Chakana es una cruz, ¿sí?
Mm-hmm. And this forms part of the balance point of the Chakay, which forms part of the cross, the Chakana.
Chakra es la parte que está en línea recta o la parte que está en escalonada.
Mm-hmm. So this you can see is in the Chakana that he's holding up. You see different lines there. And so this is the connection, for example, between heaven and earth, or masculine and feminine. Everything is always in balance. What you can't see in that 2-dimensional form is the one that's going front to back, which is future and past. And the portal in between, which is our heart.
O sea, Chakra no tiene límites, ¿no? Tiene varios caminos, puntos, dimensiones.
So the Chakana has many points and lines and lineage and many things that come together to create its form.
Chaka, Chaka, Chaka forma, construye la chacana.
So the Chaka is part of the form that creates the Chakana. What he's saying is that our connection in our physical form is what constitutes the cosmic form, and the cosmic form is what constitutes our physical form. It is the ghost that's in the machine. It is the soul that's within the structure. One cannot exist in form without the other. We cannot be animated in life without this life force.
Chaka mantiene todas las formas de las energías en nuestro cuerpo.
And so it maintains all the forms and energies in your body.
Si no habría ese chaka, es como una llave. Si no habría ese chaka, no habría por dónde viaje la energía, por dónde fluya la energía.
So without this chaka, you don't have any means or any connection point. It's just like, the analogy would be like it's Legos that are sitting in a pile, and the chaka is what puts them into form. Chaka is what puts your physical and your energetic being in form.
Si no habría chaka, o sea, ese puente de energía, habría un caos, un desorden en nuestro cuerpo energético, en nuestra conciencia y también en los cosmos.
And if you don't have this, then you're disorganized in your being, in your consciousness, and in the cosmos. And that is what we see the world is suffering from so greatly, is this lack of connection to cosmic self, higher consciousness, Aini, right relationship, all of this stuff, because that connection, that core, that verticality has been lost.
Gracias a Chaka, activamente funciona la dualidad de la energía, que es llanante.
And so we have to give thanks to this, because this Chaka helps bring together and harmonize the duality of the opposites and understand and find the meta position of the opposites.
Gracias a ese Chaka, nosotros tenemos la facilidad de conectarnos entre nuestro cuerpo sagrado y las dimensiones sagradas o cuerpos celestiales.
And so it helps us, and thank you for this, because it helps us to organize this physicality that we live in and the confusion of these realms into the higher celestial realms and the understanding and the wisdom that resides there, both in ourselves and in our oversoul.
Gracias a Chaka tenemos esa facilidad de conectarnos en nuestros sueños, visiones con los cosmos y los ancestros.
And we're thankful because it is Chaka that helps us connect in our dream time, in our consciousness, into our ancestral wisdom.
Gracias a esa Chaka tenemos esa facilidad de percibir, sentir las energías de nuestro cuerpo.
It also helps us to feel and to persevere through all of the energies that we go through. So what he's saying is that that connection helps us to give us a sense of understanding and alignment while we move through the chaos of third dimensional reality.
Gracias a ese Chaka podemos liberar energías, podemos purificar energías en nuestro cuerpo y podemos ascender a otro nivel de conciencia.
And we also have to give thanks to this courtesy and way of Chaka, because it helps us to ascend and to overcome the difficulties and purify the confusions, and to go to a higher perspective in that bridge and perceive from a higher perspective, and then bring that perspective and turn the lead into gold, to turn the difficulty into grace down here in the realms that we suffer in.
Gracias a ese misterioso Chakay tenemos podemos observar, podemos ver lo que es lo físico y lo energético.
And so we're able to use this, and we're grateful for that because it allows us to observe the physical and the energetic and see beyond the entrapment of the separation or the duality state.
Entonces, cuando ese camino, ese puente está deteriorado, desconectado, neutralizado o bloqueado, etcétera, etcétera, ahí hay una desconexión o un desequilibrio.
And we can understand easily then and relate to it that when we feel ourselves being blocked, suffering in sickness and confusion, in base emotions, it is because of the deterioration and lack of use of this bridge, of this connection.
Sí, por eso a veces sentimos una enfermedad en nuestro cuerpo, un vacío, un ente o algo que percibe o algún dolor, dolencia en nuestro cuerpo biológico y energético y conciencial.
And when we feel a weakness or a sickness in our biology and in our physical being, then we understand it is a result of the deterioration of this cosmic connection. And we have spoken about this before in many classes, where the ray of light that is coming down runs into our perceptual reality, which closes off a Shen gate, which blocks part of the spectrum of light, which directly relates to one of the chakras, which causes a weakness of energy, which causes a repression of the immune system and an opportunity for dis-ease as a holy communicator to say, hey, look here, you are disconnected, you are deteriorated because you have separated yourself from your higher being, because you have been busy trying to save everybody else, for example.
Y por eso hay veces sentimos que está separado nuestro cuerpo, ¿no? De cuerpo a cuerpo, ¿no? Por ejemplo, nuestro cuerpo energético con el cuerpo físico o el cuerpo energético con el espíritu o la conciencia. Como que hay un separamiento o está alejándose, desconectándose.
Mm-hmm. And this shows us because we suffer in a state of separation, our physical body from our consciousness or our cosmic body. And the more time we do this, and the more difficult it becomes. And we understand that this is not a good or a bad thing. It's simply a observation where you can say, okay, I am suffering in disease right now. I'm suffering from sickness. And I'm also suffering from, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. The sun is so strong these days. That is all recognition that we have been living in separation and encouragement to come home. So there is no wrong and right. There is no good or bad. There's just information and observation to say, I've been lost and my body is suffering as a result of it. Or I can't believe this to be true. Something new is happening. Yes, it is something new is happening, but something very old is reestablishing itself. And then you have to take ownership for all of that.
¿Quién separa esto, ¿no? ¿Quién lo desordena o lo desorganiza?
So how do how did this happen? How did this become so disorganized? How did we get here?
Responsables, uno somos nosotros.
One of it is us.
¿Sí? Dos, responsables es la hucha.
Another thing is the heaviness, the hucha, the contamination, the consciousness that operates around us, the states of separation.
Responsables en esta parte es los cambios que trae la sociedad, ¿no? Algunos cambios que no son compatibles con esos cambios nuestro sistema.
It's also the change in society around us and how that affects us and our participation in that. And so you understand that there is a time of what appears to be separation, or a time of need to be what other people call unproductive, or to live in a cabin in the woods so you can get a sense of what is yours and what is not yours so that you can start repairing this disconnection that has happened.
Como por ejemplo la tecnología o algunas otras cosas que están creando en sistemas. Y eso influye a nuestro cuerpo energético, a nuestra conciencia, a nuestra vibración.
And so, for example, the technology or some of the low frequency things that we watch contaminates us, but it's also society and all the things. But you got to understand that as a soul, you chose to come into a certain environment with certain parents and certain conditions in order to have the opportunity to overcome this and come back at this point and repair the connections. So you're reestablishing and doing God's work by coming into consciousness. So be careful not to judge any of this as good and bad, right and wrong. Oh, it's society's fault. No, it's an active part of the journey. You need friction in order to start the fire.
4, influye también algunos medicamentos farmacéuticos que son muy fuertes.
And sometimes the things around us are very strong. ¿Qué cosas if pharmacological?
Medicamentos científicos.
Yeah, the different things like this scientific theory or the medicines or things like this can be very influential and block us and cause us. It's like taking chemotherapy. It poisons the body, or radiation.
Entonces, nuestra tarea es comprender esto y pues trabajar en esto poco a poco.
So the teaching is to understand all of this and then learn how to work with this little by little.
Porque está en nuestro cuerpo esas energías de Chakay. Está en los cosmos esa energía.
Because it is the energy that Chakay that is in our bodies and it is in the cosmos.
¿Sí? Ahora, Chaka con Chakay tiene diferente significado, como decir. O sea, si comprendes.
Discúlpeme, uno más.
Chaka y Chakay se describe diferente.
So Chakay, we can explain it in different ways.
¿Sí? Chaka es el puente.
So it is a bridge.
¿Sí? O una línea.
Or a line, a connection.
Como una línea recta. ¿Sí? O como arco iris. ¿Sí?
So it can be we can think of it as a direct line or even a rainbow.
¿Sí? O como en los árboles que vemos, ¿no? Hay diferentes formas de líneas en los árboles. O hay árboles que dan forma circular.
Mm-hmm. Or you can think of it as trees and their branches in all the different shapes that they take.
¿Sí? Eso es Chaka, ¿sí? Pero Chakay quiere decir acción de tejer un puente, un camino.
So Chaka is the structure of it, but Chakay is the energy. It is the movement that establishes it. So like neural pathways are established, you have energy and consciousness that is moving out and forming connections. Chakay is this consciousness that is creating the bridge or the connection between the different realms of our existence and our consciousness.
Chakay es acción, ¿no? Es reacción, acción es movimiento, tu reacción.
So it's action, reaction, and the overall movement, the flow of energy. It is the pulse within the network.
Y cuando hablamos de conexión en nuestro mundo cósmico, tenemos que activar, ¿no? Esa conciencia de Chakay.
So when this energy moves into your cosmic being in the world in your body, it activates the cosmic being that is dormant within your physicality.
Sí, en nuestro cuerpo físico y nuestro cuerpo energético, ¿no? Esa conciencia, activar esa conciencia de Chakay.
So the consciousness is in your body. It activates the consciousness within you. So as you open and establish this bridge and receive the light, the consciousness, that consciousness activates the consciousness inside of you so that you in turn embody your conscious being, your cosmic being. And that comes into feminine form first because females receive by nature. But a lot of females are busy doing a lot of stuff.
Cuando sentimos, percibimos, notamos que algo está pasando en nuestro cuerpo, algo que no está bien, entonces damos un inicio, ¿no? Para poder construir o reconstruir o restaurar, tejer, etcétera, etcétera.
Mm-hmm. So when you have a lot of difficulty in your past and your experience, or even as a soul have embodied or incarnated in a difficult lifetime with cultural repressions and traumas and all that stuff, it makes it very difficult on the body to maintain or to its connection to the cosmic source. But understand that as a soul, you choose that for the challenge and the opportunity to re-embody and reconnect and rewire and reweave that consciousness in form in this dimension. And as a result, consciousness expands, the universe expands, and the new era comes to be.
Si es un trabajo un trabajo responsable, consciente dentro de nuestro cuerpo cósmico.
And so it's a constant responsibility for us to be in touch and to work in our cosmic body.
Por ejemplo, muchas veces en la mayor del tiempo trabaja la mente, pero menos el corazón.
So, for example, one of the things we suffer from is that we spend a lot of time in our head instead of in our heart.
Sí. Su mente viaja muy rápido.
And the mind is very active. It keeps us very distracted.
Sí. Pierde conciencia sagrado. Es una conciencia diferente que lo sagrado.
So understand that when you're occupying your mind and you are in that form of consciousness, it is a different consciousness than this divine consciousness that we're speaking of, this cosmic consciousness.
Hay dos formas de conciencia. Una conciencia muy pesado, muy argumentado, y otra conciencia que es puro, sagrado y simple.
So we can see it as two different forms of consciousness. One is very heavy and very confused and very burdensome, and the other one is very pure and light.
Pero este trabajo tiene que darse, ¿sí? Tiene que darse con la conciencia simple, puro, sagrado, sin complicarse.
So our suggestion is that instead of getting lost in the complications of the heaviness, that you turn your attention and focus on the purity of your consciousness in the cosmic form. And whatever it is that you, momentito, whatever you put your attention to, the Buddha said, everything is the mind. Whatever you focus on is your reality. And that applies very much here.
Es concentrarse simplificando con una idea simple para conectar los centros o para conectar con el mundo cósmico.
So a suggestion is to simplify your consciousness and focus on the connection with yourself and with the cosmos.
¿Sí? Porque el chakra está listo, abierto.
Because the chakra, this energetic connection, is ready, it's established, It's just waiting for you to pay attention and use it. It's your birthright.
¿sí? Chakay es como un carro, ¿no? Que está sin prender su motor. Pero está sin prender el motor. Es como un terreno, como una chakra que necesita construir una casita.
So it's kind of like, you could say it's like your car that's waiting out front to take you wherever you need to go. You just have to get in it and use it. Or it's like having a piece of land that you can build a house on. You have to focus on building this new temple for yourself and not get caught up in all the stuff that's going on in the neighborhood.
Es como un carro que está listo para viajar y también como un terreno que está listo para construir.
So the car is ready to use and the land is ready for you to build on.
O es como un cóndor que está esperando ahí listo para montar y viajar.
At the same time, it's like a bird that's just waiting there ready to take flight. It's up to you and your decision and your consciousness to focus in this way and to fly.
¿Sí? ¿Quieres viajar por área terrestre? Está bien, vamos con el coche. ¿Quieres viajar a los mundos celestiales? Entonces vamos con el cóndor.
So you have an option. You can take your car and operate in this world down here, or you can engage your condor and fly into the celestial worlds and live there and come back.
Pero antes es construir, trabajar en acción la casita en tu terreno.
But before that, you have to build and you have to create this temple, this house for yourself, this holy place from which you operate from, your physical body that is in this land.
Tal vez hay casita bonito por encima, ¿sí? Pero tal vez por dentro está deteriorado o falta limpiar, falta arreglar, ordenar, etcétera, etcétera.
So you have this beautiful house, but something is missing. Maybe you have to clean something first. Maybe you have to remove the debris. Maybe you have to look at what you put in your way that you don't think you're worth it or you doubt it'll ever happen, or any of these psychologies that prevent you from claiming ownership of your cosmic being. Look at the association point. Do you associate as a human suffering or as a cosmic being figuring out how to operate in this density?
Hasta una parte, tú sabes cómo está tu templo cósmico, tu casita.
So your cosmic body is your true house.
Sí, tú sabes cómo está. Tú conoces.
So you have to know. You have to get in touch with yourself. You have to be honest. You have to recognize that the difficulties that you are creating are giving you stronger opportunities to get in touch with your cosmic being. And then as your cosmic being moves through this world, everything flows quite easily because you're not operating from the scarcity or the victimization or the separation of your association or your experience.
Es importante conocer.
It is.
Conocerse.
It's important that you know this.
Tu casita.
It's important that you know that you are the maestro of your house.
A rincón. Sí, de rincón a rincón.
Mm-hmm.
Es observar de muy cerca.
So you have to watch this very closely to see from what perspective and what association you're operating from.
Sí, porque tiene que haber una conexión ahí adentro.
And in this aspect, you have this singularity of connection that you recognize and operate from. You have your primary.
Y cosas que no sirven, hay que botarlo, ¿sí? Liberarlo, sacarlo.
And the things that you don't want, just liberate yourself from them. Just let it go. Don't be burdened. Don't take on other people's burdens. Don't, live below the hedge. Don't give in to any of these restrictions. These restrictions are there, just like the dark side is there, to give you opportunity to free yourself and be empowered.
A veces guardamos cosas viejas que no sirven. Algunas cosas es bueno. A veces hay cosas que nos estorban, que nos limitan, y esas cosas hay que liberarlo, sacarlo.
Some things are very important and very sacred. Hang on to those. And the things that aren't, the things that don't work, the situations, free yourself of them.
Porque algunas cosas que no sirven nos hace sentir pesado, bloqueado, confuso.
You know which things are heavy and confusing and block you. You know which associations and beliefs do this for yourself. So simply free yourself from this.
¿Para qué? Para poder hacer el Chakay.
Why? Because then we embody the power of Chakay. Understand that even if you've done things in the past that you are not proud of or have harmed yourself or harmed others, don't live in the grief of that or just get on with being the light and let that rewrite your situation in the responsibility of everything that has occurred.
Cuando hay interferencias ahí dentro de tu cuerpo cósmico, es difícil para Chakay, pero cuando liberan muchas cosas, cuando organiza su energía, entonces automáticamente se va dando Chakay.
So it's difficult to have all these things in your life that are heavy and burdensome and regretful because it's difficult it doesn't flow in the Chakay. But when you focus on what your cosmic being is and your consciousness, it's much easier to operate.
Chakay se va dando dentro de ti y desde ahí adentro hacia lo sagrado.
Un momentito, uno más, por favor. Explicar algo más.
El Chakay se va dando o se va conectando dentro de ti, ¿sí? En el sentido sagrado y desde ahí adentro hacia los cosmos.
Mm-hmm. And so when you allow this Chakay to enter into you, and when you're in right relationship and you're focusing on the goodness with awareness that you may have fallen down or harmed somebody in the past, that's what Ho'oponopono is about, right? Forgive me, Father, for I do not know what I do, right? When you stay in that flow, the flow enters into you and it moves out of you in such a way that now you and others can associate to the goodness of that being and that action and that right relationship, as opposed to getting trapped in the experiential learning process of where you fell down before. So what he's getting at is to understand that whatever is troubling you, just set it aside and focus on the cosmic connection. And as you establish that, that rewrites whatever it is. And in your library of experience, you have dark and light. But the more you are encumbered by your darkness, the more you write darkness. The more you focus in Chakay, in your cosmic being, the more that overall appearance becomes lighter. So if you pull back and you look at all the books of your experience on your library wall, there's going to be light and dark. But where you focus yourself in the light creates more light, more release, more embodiment, more ascension, more goodness, more love, evolution.
Cada punto o cuerpo de energía va tejiendo en el cuerpo.
So every point in experience resides in your body. ¿Cómo? Internet es bloqueado. Yeah. So all of your experiences, light and dark, inform and affect your nyawis, or the focal point, your energetic centers. So what he's getting at is when you focus on the difficulty or you keep regenerating it, you are literally contaminating your life force and your energetic source and burdening and fraying your connection with your cosmic being. So instead of burdening yourself with the guilt or the shame or whatever it is you may be feeling, just let that be and keep writing to the light. Keep writing to the light. Keep writing to the light. Keep establishing that. And one of the effects that you will sense is, for example, the sun's rays will feel much stronger because the connecting point that you're creating is stronger. You're reestablishing, you're remembering. Yeah.
Tenemos cuatro ñauins primarios o mayores ñauins como Yachay, Muna, Yanka y Pakari. Estos ñauins son los primeros líderes o poderes que van a trabajar en el cuerpo.
And so we have four major nyawis or points, fountains in our body, the Yachay, Mude, Yonka, and Pakari, or Kauzai, the life force in us. And these are the primary centers that we have to keep not just operating individually, but harmonize all together so that the intelligence of our womb and our intelligence of our heart can balance the intelligence of our mind.
Porque todos otros pequeños ñawins depende de estos ñawins mayores para cambiar, transformar, liberar, conectar, etcétera, etcétera.
So all the other points of energy in our body, all the other functionings of our body and in our systems are all dependent on the health of our primary centers. And so when you focus this way, Chakay, and you purify these primary centers and you reestablish your life force and your will and your creativity and your love and your intuition, it informs and heals all the other aspects of your life. And then as a result of that, you don't need others or other situations to come and get your attention through pain and suffering. So you are literally just focusing on the divine.
Porque primero estos cuatro ñawins tienen que entrar en acción de Chakay, o sea, Chakay, en acción de Chakay significa comunicación, conexión, coordinación, sincronización.
And so we want to focus on the primary nyawis, the centers, so that we can have good coordination, good connection, and pure receptivity and transmission. You're focusing on cleaning up and establishing those primary entry points into your being so that everything else is fed. Basically, it's the analogy would be like you're focusing on the main streams of your irrigation system.
Porque cada ñawin activamente está trabajando en forma de chacán.
Because each one of these four primaries are operating in the primary cross, the primary chakana. And if you don't have these primary crosses in place, none of the other connectivity around of consciousness can function because it doesn't have the primary points of connection like he's showing you there. Everything is dependent on your primary points.
Sí, hay cuatro en cada ñawin primario hacia Yachay, Umuna y Yankay tiene un punto, una fuente principal y cuatro ventanas que interactúan de adentro a afuera, de afuera adentro.
And even in each one of these points, let's say we have Yachay, for example, it has 4 points within itself. And in that, you have a coming and a going. And we have a lot of balloons. I don't know why. But, Spirit is having a party with us. Because you want to understand that the celebration is that 4 within 4, right? Within your 4 points are 4 other points. And each one of those, like this and like this. And that's how we get the sacred fours.
Esos ñawins, por ejemplo, en Yachay, las ventanas o los portales de Chakay, ¿sí? Están aquí, atrás y aquí.
So, for example, if you're taking the one point of Yachai, you have 4 points, 2 on either side here and 2 on either side here.
Está en forma de chakra.
And this forms the chakana, the chakra. In a sense, it's a fractal. We are a fractal reality.
Sí, pero también hay otro chakra en otra diferente forma, ¿no? Para arriba. Aquí.
And at the same time, there's other forms that in the vertical plane.
Sí, pero esto está en el centro. Está conectado aquí.
And this is how we are connected in our center, in our hara line.
Decimos chakamojo.
It's called Chakamoy. So you can see the hara line, and then around it, you have 4 points coming here. Out of the heart, you have 4 points going out. In the belly, in the womb, you have 4 points going out. And then down at the base of the spine, you also have 4 points going out. And so now you start to look at third-dimensional geometry and how our cosmic being is wired and functions energetically in this form. It's the energetic template through which all of the molecular structures and the magnetics function that create reality. And when you focus your mind in such a way, you create the reality based on the morphogenic field that your mind creates. And if you believe you should suffer, you're going to create suffering. But mostly this is all subconscious. So it has to become conscious. And how does it become conscious? Through illness, disease, heartache, suffering. And then we say, I'm sick and tired of this. I'm going to do something different. And in that way, we evolve.
Entonces, cada pensamiento o cada idea, intención, crea activamente un puente de conexión.
So
Despierta los puntos.
So every idea, every action, every thought, every perception activates the connections of these points.
¿Sí? A eso decimos, ¿no? Contacto o conexión simplemente, ¿no? Pero hay un código, ¿no? Que es Tupay, hay un Tupay.
And then in this activation and connection, we recognize another código, which is Tupai, the coming together. And so we literally take our thoughts and our radiation of our consciousness, and it creates connections, which creates realities, which is the magnetic and the attraction. So if I feel like I'm not worth it, I'm subconsciously projecting that and attracting somebody that's going to show me how I'm not worth it, so that I can get so tired of doing that I activate my consciousness and do something different. Like the Buddha said, your mind creates your reality.
Ahora, el Tupay se considera simplemente como un contacto real, ¿no? Que se percibe, se siente, se nota, ¿sí?
And so the extension of this thought through this kanai creates a tupai, a connection, and then it is perceived as real. It is perceived as what it is through the filtration of your system.
Se siente en el cuerpo una sensación,
So for example,
un toque de energía, ya sea físicamente, energéticamente.
so you feel it, you have a connection physically and energetically.
¿Sí? Por ejemplo, un sonido es un contacto en tu cerebro.
So for example, you hear a sound and you have contact in your mind.
¿Sí? El contacto ocurre en diferentes situaciones, formas, con sonido, sin sonido, palabras, etcétera, etcétera.
And the sound can contact you in different forms, in a harmony or in a word. It vibrates your inner oculars, and it creates information into your brain, a tupai.
Pero todo es un contacto, ¿no? Cada momento, cada día hay un contacto, hay una percepción.
So everything is contacting you and aiding and adding to your perception.
Ese contacto está ocurriendo constantemente dentro de ti y fuera, y desde ahí con el mundo exterior.
So you're constantly having this information and input from the external world.
Pero no solo tiene que ser un contacto, ¿no? Ese contacto necesita expandirse o necesita continuar en sentido de Chakay con otro cuerpo o punto.
So when you're just paying attention to the physical sounds in the world, you need to expand beyond that to see what the cosmic sound is that's coming through. For example, the owl in the night is hooting at you down the hill. It's not just the bird making a sound, it's spirit communicating through that sound. For example, the wisdom of the owl is to be able to see into the darkness. So look at the signs and symbols around you and recognize the cosmic information that is coming in and open yourself to that. So you're not in reaction to and get into the wars and opposition of the physical or the superficial level of what you're experiencing.
Sí, o sea, no queda un puente, un contacto en ese Chakay de un punto a otro punto, sino que se expande o tiene que tejer, crecer, ¿no? De un punto a otro punto a otro punto, sucesivamente.
And so it's not just going from one point to another point and making that contact. It's allowing yourself to expand to many points and many references, many dimensions of information and cosmic reality that are coming in.
Sí, porque en nuestro cuerpo cósmico es un misterio, porque tiene muchos pequeños portales, puntos para conectar.
So this body is very mysterious. We have lost so much. There are so many different places of connection within our being.
Si solo imaginamos en el cerebro pequeños o minúsculas puntos o tejidos que están ocurriendo en un pensamiento.
So imagine in your mind all these little points and neurons and connections that you have and balloons that are happening. I don't know why this keeps happening, but I love it. So imagine the celebration of your mind of allowing all these connecting points to come online, to be informed.
Sí, ¿cómo es que el cerebro es una parte del viaje, ¿no? Está bien organizado en su espacio, cada punto, ¿no? Cada tejido y conectado con el cuerpo mecánico.
And so imagine that you allow yourself to connect with all these points of consciousness and then you wire them into your reality so that you are functioning with all these points of consciousness happening at the same time. You'd be very well informed.
Es como el sol, la luna y las estrellas.
So it's like being in a connection or a symphony of the sun and the stars and the moon. What he's saying is that you will activate your planetary reality. You will become the star in the sky.
La luna y el sol tiene un puente chakra de conexión.
And the sun and the moon and the stars all have connections.
Y las estrellas cumplen diferentes funciones en el cerebro, el cuerpo mecánico y energético.
So what he's getting at is, if imagine yourself sitting outside under a starry night, every star has a connection to itself and every star has a connection to you. That's your neurocircuitry of your cosmic being.
Ahora en el cerebro, o sea, diríamos En el cerebro hay pequeñas estrellitas, muchas estrellitas que están trabajando activamente.
And all of these little points of consciousness inside of you are activated by your awareness and your connection to the expansiveness of your conscious being. And all of that there is here. And all of this here is there. And then you start to understand oneness. I am.
Activos para aportar mensaje, recepcionar mensaje, para crear mensaje, ideas, etcétera, etcétera.
And so with this, it has the activation of all these messages and all these ideas and all these inspirations and all this information that comes through you as the scribe, as the eternal being. You take your place in heaven, on earth.
Muy atentos. Y cuando queremos trabajar el Chakay en nuestro cuerpo, entonces estas pequeñas estrellitas como neuronas empiezan a moverse, ¿no? Poco a poco en nuestro cuerpo.
So all of this, the nerves,
Hacia nuestro cuerpo.
yeah, all of these aspects become activated inside of you, and inside of you, you come online, and you become a conscious cosmic being. That is ascension.
Y en nuestro cuerpo hay unos pequeños hormigas, diríamos, o gusanitos, ¿no? Que recepcionan todo el mensaje, todas las energías que pensamos o que ideamos.
So imagine your mind is like an ant farm, and every part of your mind, every ant is receiving divine instruction. That colony, that mind, becomes a hive of activity, becomes a conscious functioning entity in itself.
¿Han visto las hormigas cómo trabajan
And
en
so,
la tierra?
¿una más?
¿Han visto las hormigas, pequeñas hormigas que trabajan en la tierra?
So you imagine all the little animals working in the land.
Sí, pequeñas hormigas, hormigas o gusanitos.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Con sus antenas, ¿sí?
So he wants you to think of all the animals in the land that walk around with their little horns, all the little goats, all the little cows, all the deer, everybody. What do you think they're receiving through those antlers?
Algunas hormigas no tienen ojos, no pueden ver, solamente recepción energéticamente sus antenas.
And some animals have horns and they don't even have eyes that work. And you would say they're blind, but they're not blind because they're receiving constant instruction.
Sí. Bueno, algunas hormigas es posible pueden ver, ¿sí? Otras hormigas no.
Yeah, so sometimes some animals can see, but some don't. But what he's getting at is you don't really have to see because your vision may be limited by the horizontal plane. But when you open and extend your antlers and your wings, like all the meditations of being a tree and extending your branches and opening your leaves and receiving the solar ray-inducing photosynthesis, you're absorbing and you're making these connections.
Algunas hormigas tienen alas. Es más fácil cruzar el río. Mientras otras hormigas cruzan el río.
And some of these animals have wings and they can fly across the river, or an obstruction or a limitation.
Sí, pero las hormigas son muy inteligentes.
You have to understand we animals are very intelligent. We can navigate difficult terrain.
Sí. Una vez yo vi una hormiga, un grupo de hormigas, y una hormiga muy loco, cargaba mucho peso y chocaba, ¿no? Y su antenita estaba aquí. ¿Dónde estoy?
So some are very intelligent, and he's speaking in metaphor. Some of us animals decide that we're going to carry a heavy burden, And we're just trudging through life like, oh my God, and we're not paying attention to anything that's coming in. And other animals, some of us, are freeing ourselves of our burden and just saying, okay, what? Oh, I can fly across this river? Okay. And we do so because we give ourselves permission to.
Y una otra experiencia de hormiga. Un día llovía fuerte, fuerte, el río se cargaba y una hormiga siente, percibe y no se mete al río, se liberó, pero otra hormiga se fue al río.
And so I remember one time it was raining really hard and the river was really high. And one animal came to the river and didn't give themselves permission to the other side because they were afraid they were going to be harmed or drowned crossing the river. And the other animal, exactly the same as the other one in its outer form, looked at the river and said, it's my friend, and walked right through it. So you get to decide which kind of animal you want to be. Do you want to be limited by this experience, or do you want to have courage to fly?
Pues yo tenía que salvar a la hormiga.
So be a wise animal.
Yo nadaba para salvar la hormiga, hermano.
What I can say is that as you develop your antlers and rely on your antlers, you'll not need to see in the darkness any longer. You can just go. And I discovered it when I was working with the Apache, and they blindfolded us and put us out in the forest, spun us around and beat the drum back at camp. And in that, they introduced us to our night vision, our spiritual vision, where you could see completely everything was in reverse. And suddenly I realized I'm running through the forest at full speed, blindfolded, totally able to see everything, but the trees were white and everything else was dark. Because we all get to a point where we stop relying on what we're told is the limitation of our senses. And we expand into the reality of who we are, which is the holy animal.
No es que nadaba para salvar a la hormiga, sino que agarré un palito y pude sacar a la hormiga afuera.
No entiendo, papá.
Diciendo...
Difícil para escuchar, una más.
A la hormiga que se tiró al río, ¿sí? No es que nadaba, ¿no? Sino que agarré un palito y pude salvar a la hormiga, diciendo, tienes tiempo para vivir, tienes que trabajar.
Mm-hmm. So basically, as an animal, if you're afraid to cross the river, use your intelligence, and maybe you need to just put a piece of wood across like a bridge and walk across the bridge.
Es algo similar en nuestro sistema biológico, el trabajo de las hormigas, que son las células.
So it's the same thing in our biology. We have to work with the animal essence of our being and inspire it with the cosmic aspect so that the biology, the animal, becomes galactic, becomes cosmic, becomes enlightened, becomes embodied, becomes realized.
Porque algunas hormigas pues están chocando, cayendo, de miedo, muchas cosas en el cuerpo.
And so many times in our bodies, we animals, we get scared of we're going to fall down, or we're not good enough, or it's never going to happen, or we don't have any belief, or we don't have the ability to jump because we're carrying lots of weight and all this stuff. And we live in a state of dilapidation, in a state of suffering, in a state of opposition, starvation, etc., etc.
Sí, pero imaginemos cómo será la energía, cómo estará viajando la energía sutilmente en nuestro cuerpo.
So I want to ask you, how do you imagine, how do you work this energy in your body? You know, if you're relying on saying, oh, I'm tired and this is all I have, do you see the natural limitation that you placed upon yourself?
Porque hay energías que tienen pequeño cuerpito que se puede ver espiritualmente, pero hay energías que son como el agua. Desaparecen, o como el viento, como el sol que no se puede tocar, desaparecen, aparecen.
So you understand that you may just have a little tiny connection to your truth, a little tiny opening where the water flows through, a little tiny opening where the sun shines through. Let the sun shine through. Open that, focus on that, allow that to expand. Allow that to be your salvation, your self-salvation. No one else can do it for you. No spiritual leader, God can't even do that for you because it's your consciousness that you have to decide to allow in. Because you're respected both in your light and in your darkness.
Entonces, cada cosa, en cada momento que reaccionamos, que intencionamos, que hacemos nuestras actividades, activos, todas esas hormigas, todas esas estrellas en nuestro cerebro, y pues tenemos que priorizar las cosas más importantes.
So at each moment, you have all these things occurring in your life, and you have all this the responsibilities and all of this, all the animal natures of everything. But you have to prioritize and focus and put your attention into the cosmic aspect, into the goodness, into the light, into your ability, into your providence, into your realization. And that in that way, then you self-realize it. Otherwise, if you focus on the negative or the difficulties or your doubts or things like that, that is what you're creating. Again, your mind creates your reality. Your focus creates your reality. Belief and trust opens.
Hay veces involuntaria, hay una reacción involuntaria.
You have to be careful of your involuntary reactions.
Sí, para el cerebro, o sea, para el cuerpo biológico, para las células, para las neuronas y para la energía.
So you have to be aware of the reactivity and the programming in your muscles, in your cells, in your nerves, in your mind that will self-generate separation, confusion, doubt, and all of these things. And you have to overcome that and recognize that and then say, okay, as a guide, I'm going to take this disbelief and bring it to belief. I'm going to take this space where I don't feel love and I'm going to open and allow love to come into this space. I'm going to create this pathway and allow the light to shine on me in all my darkness, in all my fears.
Y también hay otra reacción que no es normal, ¿sí? Sin corazón.
And understand that all these reactions are perfectly normal when you're not with your heart.
Y hay otra reacción inconsciente, ¿sí? Estas cosas dañan, afectan nuestros sentidos.
And when you're in this affects your overall reality. Again, your mind makes your reality. Focus on the negative, negative. Focus on the capacity and the positive, positive.
Sí, y también hay otra reacción, ¿no? Una reacción como que, como que la vida no vale nada. La vida es un desastre. El amor es un desastre.
Right, so if you say, oh my God, my life is a disaster, my love is a disaster, you're creating a disaster.
Sí. Y nunca nos hemos preguntado por qué esa reacción.
Disculpe, internet is disruption.
Y tal vez nunca nos hemos preguntado por qué reacciono así o por qué es mi reacción de esa forma.
Yeah, so then it's never possible to have anything other than this form of negative reaction if that is what your thoughts are.
Sí. Pero la vida es único, lo mejor.
In reality,
Hay palabras para la vida.
Right. In reality, life is beautiful and marvelous and is what you make it. And it is your birthright and it is your cosmic being in form, in the heart of darkness. It is bringing heaven to earth. It is bringing consciousness into form. It is radiating your love in the heart of darkness.
Y pues nuestra tarea en la vida es priorizar, simplificar ordenadamente las cosas más importantes, más bonitos, que nos hace feliz.
So the easy way to put this is simplify your life and organize it in a way for the things that are most important, for the things that are in providence, that things that are in connection. Take time and energy to feed yourself in these ways. Understand the cost of having an income and understand the value and the productivity of being what others might call unproductive, when in actuality you're sitting, aligning and connecting and strengthening your cosmic connection.
Sí, hacer trabajar, ¿no? O hacer la tarea, ¿no? De Chakay, dentro de ti y desde dentro de ti hacia afuera, con la Pachamama, los seres sagrados.
So this is the wisdom of the teaching, the energy and the exchange from you to cosmic being and from cosmic being to you. And it all is through your intention and your focus. You don't have to spend a lot of time waxing on and waxing off and doing all these rituals and ceremonies and all that, although all of that prepares you and puts you into a theic state of mind, just like a fire ceremony, anything like that, to train you like meditation does or yoga does. But in actuality, it is just a state of presence where you are not being distracted by your mind and the realms around you. So you may feel like all you're doing all day is just sitting by the river praying. Great. The question is, where are you praying from and where are you praying to? Right? Are you trying to get away from something, or instead are you just opening the cosmic source and overriding all of the darkness with light in the grand acceptance and the grand bow to life itself? Because if you're spending a lot of time in discontent and shame and guilt and poverty, and you're saying, I need help with this, you're strengthening that. So instead, focus on the light and bringing it through and widening that opening so that your experience is more and more and more in the bliss of that divine. It's very hard for people around you to understand who are trapped in third dimensional war, trying to figure out should they put up an Israeli flag or a Palestinian flag. You know, it's all that nonsense, all that distraction.
Chakay es como simbólicamente, como construir un puente sobre el río grande. Y cada piedra que va a construir ese puente va a representar espiritualmente a cada cosa que hace en la vida.
So your job is to construct this grand river of life between your physicality, your what you associate here, and your cosmic being. This bridge, in other words, also, every stone of this bridge you construct is an aspect and an idea of something that is in right relationship, that is in goodness. And a lot of times you have to disassemble old parts of constructions of your life in order to retrieve these sacred stones and build something new with them. Because in your previous stages of consciousness, you constructed faulty temples because you just didn't know any better. And so as your consciousness evolves, you break apart the Legos and you reconstruct them into cosmic bridges.
¿Se entiende?
Do you understand? Is this confirmational for the stuff that's already coming through to you when you're sitting out by the river? Good. You're in perfect right alignment. That's the flow of things. Synchronicity is confirmation. Deja vu is confirmation that you're on the path. all of it is the recognition that we're coming home. And the hard part of it is the trust at times, because the world's going crazy and I don't want to be a part of it. And I'm just going to sit here and pray by the river. And all of the Western fears come up. Where am I going to earn my money? How is this going to be? Do I trust this love? Do I trust this situation? How do I raise my kid? You know? I've just been letting him sleep until he's filled up his gas tank with sleep and he's like, oh my God, I feel like I've never felt before. Good, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to go back to sleep. Good. You don't mean go back to sleep, because that's what caused the problem, right? He's like, yeah, I just want to sleep more. I want to do nothing more. I want to be more of nothing. Good. And what he's doing is he's tearing apart all the old constructs, and he's got a bedroom full of Legos, so to speak, and stones. And I don't care when he starts building. I just am interested now in the disassembly process. And that's where we find ourselves. We're deconstructing all of this BS that we convinced ourselves we needed. And if it plays right into that beautiful saying, if you want to know God, get rid of everything that you're not. Because what's left over is the divine. And to a Westerner, that's hard. Oh.
Pues para terminar nuestro estudio.
And so to finish our teaching for today.
Sí. Construye el puente de la chacana para volar como el cóndor.
Construct a bridge of consciousness so that you can fly like a condor.
Queremos eso todos.
And that's it. That's all it is.
Yo también. Necesito trabajar más.
Same for me. I just have to work more. I have to keep letting go of what I'm not. Because everything that you perceive as a complication or an obstacle or a confusion is your perception. It's not actually there. It's just you perceiving. So thank you. And do any of you have any questions? Sit with this. Ski with it. You know? Pray at the river with it. Understand this connection. When you step back and you look at all these things, they're so simple. It's almost too simple. And yet that's how it should be. We're the ones complicating. So simply address the things that you are putting your attention in and let go of the things that you don't want in your life. And just keep bringing the light. And it'll get wider and wider and wider and more profound. There'll be those from the north who find the light from the darkness of their times. You are the ones we've been waiting for. The only reason prophecy is because we're in these circular cycles where the future is the past and the past is the future. We're just coming back to where we were before at another level of consciousness. We're spiraling up. So enjoy the process for these next 2 weeks till we see you again. Much love and goofiness. And ¿algo más, Huequeche?
Es completo, hermano. Si tienen preguntas o si no, la siguiente también podemos dar un espacio para sus preguntas.
Es todo bien para ellos.
Ya.
Es muchas information amplio.
Anyway, gracias. Les quiero mucho. Les amo mucho. Cuídense.
Take good care. Much love. I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much for joining. And have fun out there. Talk to you later.